Hope you guys did get a chance to watch that debate, which I had with Matthew Dillahunty. Now, he's supposedly a very big name in the atheist community, and this was a huge milestone in terms of what was achieved over there. And so I'm not even going to talk about who won or who lost. I'm not even going to get into that because I think it was pretty clear. I mean, the main takeaway from this debate, you know, is that the people in the audience, these were his own followers. They were actually accepting the fact that the Quran is supernatural. They were accepting that. Now they didn't say this is from God. You see, they didn't exactly say this is from there's many other options for something to be supernatural other than God, but that's good because we're getting from point A to point B now with the atheist. And this is the first time really in the history probably of apologetics. It dates back to, I don't know, 1993. So before the internet came, we really didn't even know about religion. I mean, what is the DNA? What makes up this religion? We really didn't know. All right. And we didn't even know that there was really groups of atheists. What was an atheist apologist to begin with? There was only Muslims and Christians who were really taking the stage. There were some atheists, but it's like we really didn't know. So this was like a big secret to begin with. I mean, so the issue here, is I'm a little bit diverting here. But before there was always an issue of, okay, well, did the Quran really agree with science? Is it really? Are you just reading the science into it, or are you just taking metaphorical, vague passages and you're spinning your own how shall I say, interpretation of it? You're trying to retrofit, trying to make it to agree with science. So that's where the concerns were. That's was what the so-called refutations to the whole scientific miracle narrative was. But as the years progressed, we tightened our arguments, we made them better, and now all of that is gone. And it's not just this debate with Matt Dillahunty, which I just had, it's also the previous debates as well. There really is no more question about that. Everybody in the not just with a group of Matt Dillahunty's group, but everybody pretty much agreed these verses do agree with science. So that's a huge milestone. And that's a big death blow to atheism. And it's a big death blow to all the other beliefs or whoever out there who is trying to refute our scientific evidences. It's a death blow. But it went farther than that. They and I did if you really the most pertinent part of this whole debate is in the question and answer time because Matt's own followers, they were actually agreeing that yes, this is something, not only does it agree with science, but it is something which is supernatural. And they were giving many how shall I say, evidences, I mean, or examples of what the supernatural could be. They're like, okay, well, maybe this was something which was, I don't know. They give many different examples, like could be aliens, it could be something like that. But what's interesting is one of them even said this could be magic. This could be the work of magic. And that's very interesting. Why that is very interesting is because in the Quran, there's actually a verse in the Quran which actually said that the disbelievers will call this book as magic. Why were they calling it magic back then and now? Because they do see something amazing about this book. They do see something which is extraordinary that a human being could not be the author of that. Today, it's Quran and science. And but back then it was the linguistic miracle of the Quran. We don't speak Arabic today, so we're not going to really. I mean, vast majority of people here don't speak Arabic. That's what I meant. So you probably are not going to capture, or you're not going to be able to appreciate the miracle of this book 1400 years ago. So Allah said in the Quran, it said, look, the disbelievers will say that this book is magic, but this, and then it further then elaborated, but this book is not magic. And look at this 1400 years later. The disbelievers of today's time are looking to the Quran and they're saying this is magic. Well, why did they say that? Because they saw the amazing agreement between the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and modern science. So this is how shall I say, this is a huge milestone. It's a huge milestone, and I remember in that debate. And if you don't have time, just fast forward to the Q&A section. I said, look, Matt, those are your followers. These are your followers who are calling the Quran magic. Everybody there was convinced in the Q&A. Well, not everybody. I can say a lot of people were that this is something which is supernatural. So so you cannot. That's why I'm not even going to go into like who won the debate, who lost the debate. I'm not even going to go into any of that. You know why? Because it is how shall I say, pointless to even say that if your own followers are accepting the Islamic claim that the Quran is supernatural. And then I further proceeded to show them that the other supernatural possibilities, which hypothetically could exist, or it could be magic, maybe the work of aliens. Look at the pyramids. I mean, these are amazing things there as well. I then proceeded to show them that's really not the best option. God is the best option. And one of the techniques I used in that debate, by the way, and this is something which, hey, hello, Trevor, nice to meet you. Oh, give me a break. Look at it. And look what Trevor is writing here. And I'm going to digress a little because I would like to address Trevor's Griffith's comments here. He's just saying, "You are lying. You're lying. Seriously, you're totally lying." You know, I wanted to also address the comment section and exactly what you see over here. So if you read the comment section, you are going to see he's not the only person. That's why I'm not going to blame him. Definitely, Trevor, click the link, come join the link, and we can have a discussion. Okay, we can have a very nice discussion. Now, if you read the question and answer time, here's another one. Jude 7 Artist, you're lying. You're lying. You're lying. What's going on here? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the psychology of what's going on here. It's very fascinating. I love what they're writing here. Because as I said, if you go to the comment section, you're going to see that it is filled with comments like, you're a liar, which is very strange because they never actually said what this great lie I am telling is. So usually when somebody is like caught as a liar in these debates, usually it's like, okay, you misquoted a reference, you made a claim about history which didn't exist, and so they'll like show the reference and they'll show like, okay, I'm sorry, that doesn't make any. But what is this? What is this that's going on? They're saying you are a liar, but they're not telling us what the great big lie is. It's very interesting. And let's go into the psychology of what's going on here now. It's very fascinating. Because I would say, I would probably say there's maybe hundreds of comments like that. You see, um, how do we know you are a lying Nadir? Yeah, go ahead, Trevor. Please tell us, how do you know I'm lying? so, so you see the psychology of what's going on here. They're in shock. They're in shock over what happened. You see, if I was lying in the debate, then that is Matt's job, Matt Dillahunty's job, to then show where the lie is and to expose me. But that never happened. So part of their atheist pseudoscientific quackology, these people are upon. Number one quackological claim of these people is they absolve all responsibility from Matt. He's brother Matt. He's like your son. No, he has no responsibility to produce evidence. He has no responsibility to really refute my arguments. So they're not really viewing this as a debate. It's very important to understand the debate from an atheist, pseudoscientific, quackological perspective. This is an interrogation of a criminal. Ah, now we see where that liar stuff is coming. You see, if I'm a criminal, I got my hands tied behind the back. I'm a criminal like this, and Matt is the interrogator, and I'm making all kind of claims. Handcuffed, yeah, and I'm making all these bogus claims. Obviously, as the FBI agent or something like that, he's looking, and they're just nodding their heads at this criminal, making up all kinds of alibis to defend himself. So that's how these people view the debate, because there's so much against Islam. There's so much against religion. So in this, not so they're not viewing it as a debate. They're viewing it as an interrogation. That's so all responsibility or whatever. I mean, Matt was supposed to do, which he didn't. So when they see Matt get destroyed like that, they reinterpret it as a great criminal liar, who is just mouthing off. And that's how you explain all what you're seeing over here. So I'm not even going to tell you how badly Matt was destroyed in that debate. Oh, okay. Hey, Hakeem just joined us. MashaAllah. Well, hey, Hakeem, nice to meet you. We've got, I don't know if you were listening, but we're getting into the psychology uh,
Right.
of people, and how they're just brandishing me as a liar without even telling me that's a lie. And what I was telling him is because in atheist pseudoscientific quackology, when they
Yeah.
look at these debates, they don't see it as a debate, they see it as an interrogation of a criminal. And I had my hand
Unbelievable.
back. So
Yeah.
obviously whatever I say, and if I make a good point, if I make a point and Matt is just silenced, look at that liar over there.
Exactly.
It's a sickness they suffer from.
It was unbelievable. I mean, I was thinking that it could be a debate, but when I entered there, and if to be honest, if it wouldn't be you, I wouldn't go and watch another Matt's debate. I couldn't feel that it was a debate. To be honest, I was like, he summoned you somewhere. I don't know. He was a judge, and you are in like standing in his court, and or maybe he's a
Yeah.
king sitting on a throne and asking you all sort of questions.
Right.
And no matter what you were responding, you made I think 3 or 4 very valid points, and all he was saying was nah, nah, nah. I don't think so. It's not as important. These kind of things. I mean, it was such a lazy response from his end. I mean, it
Right.
was unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, and this is and Matt is not like exactly he's a very well known person in the atheist community. He's like one of their
if he's
bigwigs.
if he's well
Yeah.
known, I don't know. I remember your previous debate with on Ghalib's channel with Bitter Truth.
Yeah.
That guy was completely unexperienced, and I think he was much better than Matt. To be honest, I mean,
Yeah.
he Matt really disappointed me. Look at him. I mean, he was. I mean, to begin with, he was so lazy. He didn't even prepare a speech, like
Hmm.
speech or like opening a speech. He just took some random word from I think from some Christian speech, and he just even didn't bother to tell him made it. So it's just like, I mean, come on, you had to do some effort. If you want me to listen to
Hmm.
you, if you want me to leave my religion or faith, you need to show me some respect. Give me
Hmm.
something, right? All you are saying is murmuring, like it's like completely unbelievable. I was extremely disappointed, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
other than maybe one point, whatever I listened there, I wish if I could get more out of my time. I mean, and you've been doing whatever you could. I mean,
Right.
whatever one person could to explain. I mean, the point of the discussion was, is Islam true, right?
Hmm.
It was not like so it was not like something that he couldn't contribute, for example. So
Hmm.
if the point was, is Islam true, and you are saying yes, it is true, he should do equal effort to prove that it's not true.
Right.
But he was not. He was doing was, as I said, he was just sitting like there like a judge. If that was the debate, if that was the standard of the debate, then I don't know what kind of discussion he would be doing. Probably he wouldn't be saying a single word if
Yeah.
in a discussion. So it's like completely,
Do you
yeah, I don't know.
do you think it's just an issue of arrogance? I mean, maybe he has takabbur in his heart.
To be honest, that's what but to be very very honest, during the middle of the sorry, when the debate reaches to the mid, I was thinking maybe he's lazy. But when it reaches to the towards the end of the debate, there felt that he has some sort of arrogance. He was not responding. He was just laughing,
Hmm.
trying to make mockery, and then he used some bad words against you. I mean, who does these kind of things these days? I mean, look at once
Right.
again on Bitter Truth. He kept calling you brother, Nadir
Hmm.
Bhai, and I mean, yes, we couldn't make them agree on your points. You couldn't, but that's fine. I mean, people, they have disagreements. We all have disagreements. I have no problem with atheists in general. I mean, we have
Right.
disagreements on God's presence. So be it. I mean, they are in general, they are all our friends. But
Mhm.
that kind of reaction and behavior, but that also tells me that you in my heart and in my brain, you won that debate, no matter if there was, because there were like, I don't know, the thousands of people, they were all atheists, none of them, they were like chirping on the chat. No one is really giving a serious responsible question or comment. I don't know what was wrong with those people. Maybe they were not really serious, maybe they're very immature, maybe they were big fans of Matt. I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah,
So
and you know, the main issue here, which I think which Matt, I don't know, which I think broke him in that debate was I asked him a question. I didn't let him go on it. How do you explain the amount of scientifically correct statements coming from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And then I went into COPS, the COPS an acronym, and I'm like, COPS is not going to explain this. And I think what happened is, sometimes when you get stuck, on a point and you cannot answer, then that makes you angry. And it was like this anger came upon him that, okay, you got me in
possibly,
this,
yeah.
and so in addition to that, I didn't just like a lot of times what uh hold on one second. Let me just address quickly Ahmed's point. I prefer not to show up the things that religions this thing is religions cannot be demonstrated to be true, usually Matt definition since the claim of supernatural claims. Okay, Ahmed, maybe you did not watch the debate because if the people in the audience and the question and answer time, if they could see the Quran to be supernatural, remember us, and I waved my hand there saying, Matt, these are your own followers. They're looking at the Quran and Islam and they're saying this is supernatural. One even said this Quran is magic. Now, if they could see that, how is it you cannot see that or anybody cannot see that? And not just them, but in the comment section, I've had many very good discussions with many of Matt's followers, and it's very interesting to see where the discussion was. The discussion focused on, is the Quran supernatural? What this discussion did not focus on is if the Quran agrees with science. Or you're reading science into the Quran, you're taking metaphorical passages and you're just retrofitting it to make it agree with science. That's the milestone, Ahmed. That is where the which, because that was the issue, that was the arguments of the atheists of the past, that Muslims are just taking the Quran and bending it, twisting it out of context. All of that was gone. Everybody, I mean, not everybody, like I said, a lot of people there saw exactly how the Quran was supernatural. So how is it that you guys can't see it? And that's the death blow of which I'm talking about. So it's no longer I'm giving you my interpretation. It's no longer am I telling you, okay, look, I'm patting myself on the back here. That's not what's going on here. I would ask for you. I guess that's really mind
Yeah.
blowing for me. How is it that you guys cannot see what the other atheists saw? That's a question which you people in the comment section, you people need to answer. So, anyways, I digress. I just wanted to address his point here. But
No,
going back to the blow
yeah,
by blow analysis,
yeah.
because what I was doing, I was like, I'm not going to let you go. And I think from his arrogance, he was not used to somebody to aggressively pursue him like that. I think that was pissed him off really bad. So I said,
Yeah,
Matt, I'm gonna ask you again. How do you explain the sheer amount of scientifically correct statements inside Islam here? And I wouldn't let him go, and he couldn't. Then I said, okay, so you can't answer that. Show me one scientific error in the Quran. Show me one scientific contradiction. Now, what's interesting
he
is
didn't
in his
even.
debate with Kenny, he gave many quote examples, but it seems
You're right.
like, at least is what it seemed to me, is that he got intimidated or punked out and he was scared. I think he was honestly didn't want to make a fool out of himself because I think he thought to himself, I don't know Islam well enough. This guy seems to have studied these points about the scientific errors until he backed away. I said, no, no, come on, show me the contradiction. That you had that debate with Kenny where you did it. Come on, bring him over here. Let me see it. And he backed away. So this was, and then he tried to win the debate on tried some kind of technicality. Well, should we even be asking these questions? And he started asking some type of philosophical questions, not to basically saying, okay, you don't need to bring up these issues of science. And then those got squashed as well. So what he was trying to do, he was trying to um, dismiss it on a technicality. He was trying to do stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
There are multiple things. I also faced his incompetencies,
right,
I mean, I don't think his incompetency should be the merit of judging if he's right or wrong, because he didn't knew
right.
anything, right? So, for example, the example that you quoted about the animals with fangs, a bird with the fangs,
Hmm.
and he said, "Oh, Quran said that," and you actually mentioned that it's in Hadith, not Quran.
Right, right, right,
Quran doesn't mention about fangs, right?
right,
The
right.
Quran, halal and haram, is very simple, couple of verses, and that's it. You mentioned, if you didn't knew, that could be an excuse. But you just mentioned that it's in hadith, and then he
Mhm.
again he was saying like, oh, in Quran, fangs is not an issue, and no blah blah blah, ads could have been done through that, infection could be.
Mhm.
Matt, you were not listening. So incompetency is one thing, right?
Right.
But the main thing is like you were not even listening, and it's not just that mistake. I think later in that debate, I think someone from the comment section mentioned about Aisha's age,
Hmm.
Mother Aisha's age,
Right, right,
and you mentioned it's not in Quran, it's in Hadith. Now, Hadith is a
right.
secondary source of information for Muslims, but you mentioned it's in Hadith, and he was again quoting it as a Quran, so that's like a couple of times it happened. I don't think he could understand that there's a difference between Quran, which is the primary source of Sharia and knowledge and divine knowledge to us, and then there's a hadith which was collected 250 years later. I don't think he had any kind of understanding, which again, he is not a Muslim. I can forgive him, but you mentioned it. At least he
Hmm.
should be listening. I think he just reached up to a level where he just didn't want to listen to anything. He just got to arrogant, angry,
You
not
know,
listening to words.
he felt the pressure on him. I think the pressure, because I was making sure. So what my strategy in this debate was, and this is what was different from a previous debate. You see, the other debaters, other Muslim apologists, what they do, they'll bring up arguments like, okay, and Quran says this about heavy clouds, and then they move on to the next point. And so maybe they might bring it up like, well, I did mention heavy clouds. But see, when you're in this position, you're in a defensive posture. You're just throwing it out there and you're now waiting. Okay, what he's going
Yeah.
to do?
So
What you
so,
going
so
to
the
do?
four.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so exactly. You quoted 4 points that,
Hmm.
according to your opinion, were very strong points that prove Islam is a true religion. And then you waited for him to respond to it, and he couldn't respond other than saying, "Oh no, it's not really as important."
Hmm.
And he couldn't. I mean, he couldn't quote it a single verse of Quran or tradition which he could say that, look, this is wrong, now answer me.
Hmm.
Only at the towards the end there were some I think audience who put some quotes like that, who
Right.
asked some questions. So I think that even the audience were
They're
more
doing damage control.
but that's what you said. Yeah, so I didn't knew about damage control. I'm not really very good with these
Hmm.
debates, and people, all the fanboys
Yeah.
gathered around their star, and that's
Right.
what they normally do. um, so I wasn't aware of that, to be honest, but
Hmm.
yeah, it possibly, yeah, but they were still, I think the audience, some of the very young audience, they were more competitive, they were more knowledgeable than this mad guy. you
Right.
were
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what they were doing, like, wait a sec, they were trying to fill the void which he left behind. I think. So
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
but the one thing I want to get back to, the strategy of this debate and what makes it, most Muslim apologists, they will take on kind of a defensive posture where they throw something out there like an argument, then they just sit and wait for the repercussion. They're waiting for the blow. Okay, I'll respond to him when he says something about this. But what my strategy in this debate is you bring up your argument, and then you basically go on the offensive. Never sit in a defensive posture where you just wait for him to respond. So I said, okay, I challenge you. Show me in the Quran or anywhere in Islam where there's a scientific contradiction. And
Yeah.
when he didn't, so that's an offensive posture, because
Yeah.
and I think when he felt that type of pressure on him, and I was putting a lot of pressure on him, um, and then I think that's where he broke,
that
where he felt scared. I think he really was scared to basically try to challenge me on the Quran and the alleged scientific error narrative, and he tried to play around with some of the scientific. One of the things what he tried to do is try to show there is no agreement with science. Like for example, when I showed in the Quran, it's word for word agreement with what the scientists tell us about alcohol. It's like, yes, there's some good in it, but overall it's bad. That is word for word agreement in Quran.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
tried to
exactly.
play around with that, where he tried to give his own interpretation of why he thinks alcohol is actually good. And then when I came, so I was ready for that.
Moderation, yeah.
Yeah, so I was ready for that. I said, get your opinions peer reviewed, and when the scientists look at what you are saying, because that's contradicting the CNN article. So
The
I
latest,
flashed it
exactly.
again. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not what the scientists said. Okay, get your views peer reviewed. And once, and that was, I think that was caused him a little bit of embarrassment. And I said, when the scientists agree with you, Matt, then I will say, look, Quran is wrong. So I
So
think once I put that pressure on him like that, because 90% of the Muslim debaters, they would just say, okay, he has his opinion. They just move on to the next point, just kind of nod their
yeah,
head,
just yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But that's a type of aggressive posture I think you need to take against these type of people, because even I don't know if you ever done boxing, if you ever played a sport, but when you have an over aggressive opponent on you, it kind of breaks your spirit a little bit.
Right,
You
right.
feel like I want to get out of this, and I've been in those positions where it's game day and your opponent is just really aggressively pursuing you. You got to have that strong spirit to stay in there sometimes.
Right.
And I think that aggressive posture did break him, and he felt too scared to go into scientific narrative with me. And he didn't. He was thinking, how can I answer the question of how do you explain the sheer amount of scientifically correct arguments? And he knew he was not going to beat the case. And I said that you're not going to beat the case. He knows that, and it just enraged him. And now when it came to Aisha, now he felt like, okay, I can pull off a last minute win here.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do something here. And now you see him come alive. And he's like, you're a monster. You're a
You're a monster.
monster.
And even said God is monster. Like, look at
Yeah.
him, like such a
Yeah.
pathetic way. I
Yeah.
mean, I wish if I could. I mean, I want to stay decent. I don't want to
Yeah.
use a bad word for him, but I mean, it's unbelievable. Look, you even mentioned that this is not in Quran; it's in Hadith, right?
Hmm.
You even mentioned that this is not something that we're gonna do. This is not for us. This is not for Muslim. Muslim don't do this.
Right.
You mentioned it, and then he was attacking on you because what because of some one hadith or two.
Hmm.
I mean, come on. And then
Well, he's desperate.
he was desperate. He wanted to basically exhaust. Like he just wanted to um, throw out his aggression. He
Yeah.
needed something, and you're right. Like at that end, he wanted to do something like. But you know what? You didn't respond in bad way back, and that make you a winner. If you
Hmm.
would have, I was really like hoping that you're not gonna say anything back to him. I knew you are a decent person because
Yeah.
the actual fight is showing your character.
Hmm. Right.
Arguments, technically you may win, lose one thing here or there, but big deal. Main thing is you went there, you had the courage. They were all most of them they were atheists. And that guy was like known as like I didn't knew him, but you mentioned that he's like probably one of the best of
Hmm.
the all these atheists.
Yeah.
And then when and then you went there, you being peaceful, you being I mean doing your all your good arguments, and then when he responded so badly, you still kept your cool, and I think that made you a winner. People they don't understand this.
Hmm.
Argument doesn't mean um, to basically beat someone else. It's not like a boxing match. It's not
Right.
like
Right.
a wrestling, right?
Hmm.
you have there are multiple ways you show that you are winning, your points are valid. If a person get angry, immediately understand that he's a liar.
Hmm. He knows he's beat.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's the,
that's a very good point you've raised. I mean, because you're right. What I tell Christians, look, it doesn't matter Tawheed or Trinity. It doesn't matter if your akhlaq, meaning if your behavior is so bad. Even if you do have the truth, people will just be like, they'll just walk away from that, and
exactly.
they will actually find it within themselves to try to refute your truth, even though they know it's truth, just because you put on that ugly face. And I think when it came to Aisha, he felt like, okay, I can pull off a last minute win here. Because he knew he was not able to beat the
Yeah,
case of science. He knew he was not able to argue and answer the questions related to science. He wasn't able to show that there's no connection. He wasn't not able to show, oh, he's just misinterpreting the ayats to make it agree with science. And so then he's like, okay, you're a monster. And now he's got me up against the ropes. And so how I got away from that, is I quickly pointed out, look, if you look at, irregardless of whatever the marriage between Aisha and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
yeah, we
from an
don't know, we
Islamic
don't know.
point of view, we don't marry children because of the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you are to ask the the girl's
Consent.
consent for marriage. Now, this is very big.
Exactly,
This is very
exactly.
big because in
and
other
and
religions, it's not
and
there.
consent you can only be taken from an
Right.
adult, not a child. There's a full
Right.
stop. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Quran does the same thing. But please carry on. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Now, this is a very important point because remember, in even in the Christian traditions, there were arranged marriages where you'd just be sitting playing, in your bedroom, and your mom and dad are coming in and say, "You will marry such and such person," and you pretty much don't have a choice, And so,
Right.
but Islam changed that, and so.
Yeah.
In today's time, if you say, look, a woman's consent is mandatory for marriage, it's not a big deal because now all of humanity practices that almost. However, back at that time, that was not the case. So
Exactly.
Islam took
Exactly.
a very, how should I say, revolutionary step in saying a woman's consent is mandatory.
Exactly.
Now, you can go into any child's bedroom,
Yeah.
tell them, look, you're going to get married to such and such person. See the reaction. You're going to leave our home. You're not going to live with mommy and daddy again. Which child is going to say, oh yeah, sure, I'd like to do that? They're going to say, heck
Sure.
no. So this
Exactly.
destroys any possibility of child marriage. Okay, and the second
There you
point,
go.
what did Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told you? Who you should marry? The one who's best in their deen and khuluq, meaning their
Right.
behavior and character. You ain't going to find that in a child, okay? So if you follow the prophetic advice, there's no way you are going to marry a child. So when Matt looked at that evidence, he
True.
did concede, okay, yes, from Islamic perspective, you can't marry a child. That's true. But what about what happened with Aisha? But then at that point, I think he saw the weakness of his argument. He saw, I'm not going to win this battle. And we moved on to the next point. Because the question is Islam, it was questioning the merits of Islam, the right guidance for humanity for us today to follow. And that was
Exactly.
the debate was he lost that point. So
Yeah. I mean, he
unfortunately,
couldn't. Yeah.
yeah,
Please go
one
on.
thing I'm going to say, a lot of I'm going to criticize some other Muslim speakers. They will act because they're ignorant of the Sunnah. They are actually say, yes, you can marry a child so long as she reaches the age of puberty, and thus this whole debate then it gets swerved into a matter of puberty. Should you marry? And this is not from Islam, as we saw from
Yes,
the
that's not
Hadith.
in Islam. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there, unfortunately, some scholars have wrote some wrong
You,
opinions, and what a lot of Muslims do, they say, "Oh, I'm just going to represent the opinions of the ulama,"
yeah.
versus what
Exactly.
really Islam teaches. In fact,
I know.
there is a debate which is coming up about the age of Aisha with this guy named Daniel Hakikachu, and I'm
I.
sure he's going to make this ignorant mistake. He's going to try to justify child marriage, which is what many people do. But we've
Yeah.
seen the
Yes.
evidence. There's no precedent for that in Islam.
There is no.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
I
Yeah.
think it
So.
was it was an open and shut case, and I think where the atheists, like the ones here inside the question and answer time, J.R.
Right.
Quartz is someone who I speaking to many times by email, and they're in. I think they're in a state of shock. They're in a state of disbelief where they don't want to accept. Now let me tell you something. They are portraying me as just some embarrassment, some kind of clown, some kind of fool, some kind of big liar. But wait a second. There are a lot of people like that on the internet. There's a lot of people like that on modern day debate. I don't want to mention their name, but I'll just give one. Like, for example, the guy who goes by the name of Perfect Dawa. He is exactly that, and he seems
Right.
to be, he doesn't care. So that's why I'll bring up his name. He
Oops.
doesn't care how bad and how stupid he looks because he's some kind of, he belonged to some kind of communist organization. And that's where his real focus is to tell people about his
Oh,
communist
yeah.
group. So, anyways,
Yeah.
but here's my point. Now, read the
Unfortunate.
question,
Yeah.
read the comment section. It's quite cordial, really nice. You see, all these atheist pseudoscientific quackologists here in the chat, when they go to Perfect Dawa's comment section, it's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. There's no insults. There's no, you are an embarrassment. You are a liar. Where's all of that? It's not there. See, let me explain to
What
you how
life?
apologetics works. You see, the
Right.
opposing, when you are truly that embarrassment, that fool, that liar, to the opposing party, you are actually somebody who they see as good. They pray for you. They if you're debating a Christian and you get invited a second time, and I've seen examples where these type of embarrassments, the next thing you know, they've got some nice young Christian woman walking right next to them, explaining the Bible to them. Why? Because they feel he's some ulu, who's some gada, some stupid person. I can now convert him to my belief. You see, and then you'll get catapulted to a scholar. I've seen this too. They actually,
Yeah.
sorry about that. They
Sorry.
actually refer
Yeah.
to them as a scholar. So here's how the game is played for all those people who are in the chat section. And I do the same thing. I'll be very honest with you. The people who are ignorant, stupid, embarrassment, liars, all these people are the Christians, the atheists. I'm actually quite nice with them. We've had some nice discussions, and why? Why should I be angry with him? He's doing a good job for what? For what? And then they get branded. They are sincere. We're not going to debate those other people. Those people are all been defeated. We want to go after the sincere ones. He's sincere. He's the only sincere Muslim that I've seen. And you
Right.
will see this. So your games, honestly, like I'm 51 years old. I've played this game for 30 years now. I know how this game is played. So you're not going to fool me. You might try to fool other people, but you're not going to fool me. I'll tell you a funny story. This one guy, he was doing the same thing. Nadir, you're a liar. You're an embarrassment. You are this. I must have watched over 100 hours of your videos. 100. He couldn't see the contradiction. I'll show you that
Unbelievable.
comment. Actually, really funny. He said, I must have watched over 100 hours. Why are you wasting your time with me? When you see some stupid person on the internet, honestly, I just
Yeah.
change the channel. Let me find someone else more interesting. Why are you concerned? Then,
Yeah.
then stop watching this. Let me see if I can find that comment. Actually, a couple of comments like that. I saved it. So the thing is, I tell you what, when someone spends their time to devalue me, insult me, and goes into that kind of tirade, look, Muslims do the same thing. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not saying that they're the only people who are like that. Muslims do the same thing to the Christians. The good Christian
Yeah.
debaters, you will see they'll if you read the comment section, it's 100% identical to what you see against me. Oh, that guy is an idiot. That guy's a bleep bleep. I'll give you an example. There's one brother named Ali Dawa, and I like him. He's very good. But let's face it, he had a very embarrassing encounter with apostate prophet. Just give me 1 second. Just give me one
Sure.
second over here. I'm just gonna find something. Oh yeah, metrics. There we go. So he had a very embarrassing encounter, and he really made a fool out of himself. To be very quite honest with you, um, just give me 1 second here. Find those comments I was going to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now read the comment section. And when you read the comments section, it reads just like what you see against me. They were not even going to acknowledge that apostate prophet actually did a very good job against him. They wouldn't even acknowledge that. And it reads exactly the same way that, oh, this apostate prophet, don't waste your time with this guy. Don't say, hold on, let me just give my so we've got these little
No worries. Take
timers
your time. No worries.
on these iPads here. Yeah, because we don't want them watching all day. So here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, sorry about that.
No, sorry.
Let me share my desktop over here. So my point
Sure.
here, Muslims play the same game as these atheists are doing. So don't be impressed by you're not fooling anybody, at least not on my shift. So let me share to you with you this real quick here, this little comment section. I thought it was really funny here. So let's read this here. So here's a comment. Can you see my screen? Oh, good.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can see. Good.
I
Yeah.
can easily
I
see.
watched almost 100 hours of your newer debates. They're all nonsense. So we can see the contradiction here. If the first 2, 3 hours were nonsense, why would you continue with the rest of the 98 hours? It
Exactly.
makes no sense. So let's look at
Yeah.
another comment over here. You need psychiatry, he's rehabilitation before it's too late. Okay. I've watched I've watched your every single debate between the names I mentioned. Can you see a contradiction between the underline and what's over there? If I'm just some dummy on there, why are you watching all my debates? Do
Unless they
you
are
not have
obsessed. Yeah.
something better to do?
Yeah, get some life. Come on.
Yeah. So there is something there. There is something in these debates which these people are seeing, which is captivating them, which is saying, wait a second, what's going on over here? And if I was just some kind of, to be very honest with you, if I was just some kind of dummy, they would be bored. To be very honest with you,
Exactly.
they'd go on and watch some other videos. To be very honest with you, so
Yeah.
that's where I pat myself on the back. I'm like, Alhamdulillah. That's when I see that emotional reaction from them.
Yeah.
Because they're
Yeah.
because what they're doing in the comment section, they're just pouring. It is an emotional outburst
Yeah.
because what they're seeing
Possibly.
from the comments, they're seeing a great injustice taking place. And it causes great emotional reaction. And they're lashing out in the comment section. You. So Alhamdulillah, that's how I know, okay, I did a good job. Anyway, so uh I see
So
that none of the comment section people really want to come up here and challenge the point. You know what's interesting here? Of all the comments, not one of them really quoted Matt and say Matt had a good point here. Matt refuted you
Matt
on this.
didn't Matt
Where is
didn't
all the
raise any
commentary on
point.
how great Matt did? It's not there. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. All they were doing was bashing you because Matt
Mhm.
didn't did anything. Matt was just there most of the time, being lazy and silent.
Yeah.
Um,
Now you
yeah,
can read the comment section of where Matt debates some ignorant Muslims or people who did a poor job. And you'll
right.
see it's filled with no. First of all, there's none of this. When a Muslim debater really does a bad job, there's none of this embarrassment, insults. They don't even mention that. They just focus. They actually say, "Hey, great. Hey, this guy, like this one guy, he just said perfect dawah. He's a nice guy. He will always be called a nice guy. He's a
Yeah.
person who's very sincere, open to the truth. You will get these labels upon you, and it feels good. I'll tell you what, I saw this actually take place back in 2006. I said 2003, where there was an ignorant Muslim who was basically debating for Muslims. And he actually did come and tell me, he said, I know I didn't do a good job in these debates, and that's why they're flying me out to this state. This is before Zoom and StreamYard really took effect and really the technology advanced. But back in the day, we actually literally had to fly out to different states to do these things or different countries to do a debate. So
Okay.
he says, and he was a very good brother. He said, I know why they're catering to me because I know these debates are not very good. I didn't say anything. I'm like, okay, yeah. He says, I'm not going to accept any more of their invitations. So he's very good, and
Fine.
he was very good in that regard. But they were flying him out, buying him dinner, telling him what a great guy he was. Because I tell you what, the
Yeah.
average imam, the average priest, the average pastor, you know, they don't really have this skill to step into these environments and do these type of debates. Okay, they don't.
Unfortunately, not. No.
You
That's not
know,
that's
yeah,
not the part of their training. Let's say that.
right, right. Like
Yeah.
such a big focus of what brings home the success is this Google doc which I have, in which I
Right.
copy paste the exact references from science with a link and juxtapose it with a Quran verse. Okay,
Yeah.
stuff
Kudos.
like that. Let's
Very good.
face it, the average imam or priest or pastor or whoever, or the pope or whatever, they don't do these things. Their minds don't
Even
work that way. Okay,
average
so
atheists don't do that
yeah,
either. So Matt didn't did that either.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
So he was very proud. He was very arrogant, and I think it got the best of him
Um,
inside this
so
debate.
there was another thing, Nadir, that I felt that was causing trouble there to not to Matt, and it was that he was so specific to himself, right? So there are a couple of times when that happened. Um,
Oh, right. It didn't make sense to me, kind of like he's an authority, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, well,
Yeah.
he was an authority. Plus, he wanted to took him as a supreme example of a human being
Right.
ever made. So, for example, he was mentioning um, about the alcohol thing. Oh,
Right.
I have no alcohol problem. I drink moderately. Nothing happens to me. But dude, Islam or any religion doesn't come for only one person. You need to understand that. First
Right.
of all, everybody should understand that. It's for the whole society. And if there are people who can get addicted or who will get like bad reactions because of drinking alcohol, they are allergic to it, or they
Hmm.
just gone mad, or they just start breaking things or whatever, um, or their liver they have liver problems or any biological genetical issues. Alcohol is not good for them. It's not just for one person, and it's for whole society. You can't
Hmm.
drink and then enter into a mosque, because then you will just give
Right.
trouble to everyone. So so he was just saying that I'm me I, like, for example, he said Quran is very generic. So one of that other example, it's not other than alcohol. I mean, obviously there are issues, but yeah,
Hmm.
but then he said that if God wanted to send something specific, like Matt and Nadir is having a conversation in year 2022 December, then I would say it's a specific, then I would say it's a miracle. For God's sake, are you serious? If God will start sending verses for individuals and for the individual event, then why he sent it the message to the whole community? Then he will be just
Right.
started sending a Quran for me, a Quran for other person. That's not
Right.
how. I think he doesn't understand. He couldn't
Yeah.
understand the what really God means, what
Hmm.
a religion means. Religion is basically based on the whole society to improve the lifestyle, health span, and character and morals of the whole society. It's not just
Right.
for one specific person.
Right.
So and then that's the way he was explaining God. That's not how God works. If he for example, if tomorrow he want to go and attempt suicide, God is not going to come down on the planet and stop his hand. He will let it
Hmm.
do. It's
Right.
it's your it's your harm. It will just tell you that suicide is not allowed. It's haram, right?
Mm.
Then now you need to work out. This is your life. You need to
Right.
bring most out of it. So asking such, I mean, does people really think that God gonna write a specific Quran for everyone's specific needs,
Right. Right.
answering their specific question? No.
Hmm.
So that's another point that I thought that he was just too much into himself. Alcohol
Yeah.
doesn't affect me,
It
right?
goes. Yeah. I think he sees himself as
And
the
he
perfect example of an atheist. But
or as a human being,
it's that takabbur, it's that arrogance he has. It goes back to the arrogance, and
yeah,
I think
unfortunately,
a
yes.
lot of people, a lot of people like that. They get enraged when people aggressively pursue them and challenge them. And I think that's what happened in the debate. He got really angry with that, and he would, and he didn't have good answers to respond back. And of course, look,
Yeah.
we have a whole question, we have a whole chat over here. Look at all the chats of Matt's followers in here. Okay, now what's very interesting is in this entire, we've been talking for about 48 minutes or something like that. This entire time, they cannot quote a good argument from Matt. They cannot
Because there
show
was
us
none.
where he has made a good, valid
I can
point.
I can tell one,
Okay.
and just for a laugh, when he said, when you challenged him that can you give us do you want to debate with me on slavery,
Mhm.
and then he made a good point. I really liked him specifically on that point, because he said,
Okay.
"No, I won't." He said, "No, I won't, because I don't think Islam forced slavery." So well done, Matt. There
Mhm.
you go. I really like him specifically on that point. Probably he has already done a debate with someone on slavery and he got beaten on it. I don't know, but probably he has learned his lesson. But it's good
Mhm.
that at least he learned it and he didn't want to go through the same hell again.
Yeah, and his point on slavery from a Muslim Islamic point of view, it's not like the version of slavery in Islam is not like what you see on Roots or what we understand slavery to be. So when you read Quran and Hadith, no, it's like, for example, you should never beat a slave. Why was there even slavery even to there to
Exactly.
begin with? We can
Yeah, yeah,
answer
yeah.
all those questions, but the Christians cannot.
Exactly.
So actually, people
Yeah,
think, okay, well,
unfortunately, yeah.
you're debating science, and maybe because you see this is the
Morals
best
and
argument for
science.
Islam.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't believe that. I believe, of course, science is good. I believe the best argument for Islam is slavery.
Morals.
What the Bible and the Quran says about the slave. Inside the Bible, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, it's actually written "Kode lagao iske upar," which in translate, you understand Urdu, right? What I
Yeah,
just
yeah, I
said.
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What it actually says is that you
Whip them.
should beat the slave, and many other horrible verses like that. And that's
Oops.
why the Christians are running away from this topic. Now, Matt, to his credit, did a very
He's
good
an
job
atheist.
in debating Christians on
Right.
the issue of slavery. But
Right.
but what happened, and he has caused catastrophic damage on the issue of Bible and slavery. So he's kind of an expert on that topic. And as a
Right.
result of
Maybe
what
that's
happened
why.
now, the Christians are running away from him. But he's not
Right.
smart enough to realize that. You see, and so actually, what I am actually turning myself into a person who is an advocate for Matt. I'm saying you Christians and tomorrow actually I have a debate. I will probably bring up this point. I'll say
Hmm.
you Christians are running away from Matt Dillahunty, not me,
Right.
not Islam. You're running away from Matt Dillahunty on slavery. All these people like David Wood, Christian Prince, and Sam Shimon, all the Christian apologists, why are they not debating slavery with Matt? They're
No,
debating the cherry topics, the safe topics. Does atheism offer morality? Is there a God? Um, so these are the type of topics, to be very honest with you, is not going to do the catastrophic damage to your faith, like "Kore kalagawas ke upar," which
yeah,
in our
yeah,
language, for those who don't speak our
yeah.
language,
Whip,
you know,
whip him.
yeah,
Yeah.
to
So,
whip him. Yeah,
so yeah, to whip. So the thing is, like, about the slavery. I know multiple verses which tells us, which teaches Muslims to be good with slaves, behave well with them, just like you behave with your parents, with
right,
your relatives, your
right,
friends. Exactly, the verse state that in Quran, and then it says you cannot force them into prostitution because
right,
in previous religions prostitution was
right,
allowed. He said you cannot. So for your worldly gain, exactly the wording in Quran, for your worldly gain, you cannot push them into prostitution.
mhm,
Now the thing is, if there were slaves in Muslims' times, yes, there were, obviously, because Islam came on a society which already exists, and there
right,
were existing laws; those were governing them. There was existing contracts between masters and slaves. What Islam couldn't do, or any religion wouldn't do, is basically create an anarchy. Islam, because if you see that there is some sort of like like the direct command, why Islam didn't condemn slavery, what else you want it to be condemned? so
right,
so so, so it tells you to free slaves. So yes, that's a very important verse. I think Surah Baqarah 177, where it says righteousness is not that you face towards east or west, basically for prayer, Qibla. So in Quran, God Almighty says clearly that rituals is not really as important. It's not as righteousness is not that you face towards east or west, but it is that you believe on God,
mhm,
you believe in prophets and holy books and all those beliefs, and then within the same verse, in this the top most important things, it tells you to free slaves.
right. So yeah, and let's and so that's a debate. We're gonna wait to. Oops. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I
okay, I'm
can
sorry
hear
about that. I keep
clearly. Yeah.
nailing this button over here. So that's a
No
debate
worries.
which we're going to have hopefully soon, because, one of the reasons why we don't see these debates is because the Christians are running away. They know it's going to cause catastrophic damage to their belief. But let's get
Yeah.
back. I want to address Ahmed's comment, and it's very interesting
Right.
what he said here.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sure.
I'm asking, okay, what good points, what good arguments did Matt really make here? Now listen to what he wrote here. Matt wants you to prove supernatural claims to be true, which is impossible. So now what's happening here? is whoever this person is, I don't know who he is, he's taking a yes, my lord approach to Matt. This is, I specifically addressed this point, but because Matt said it, it must be true. And then he just blocks his ears and doesn't want to listen to anything. So, yes, my lord. Matt, did you say this? Yes, my lord. And that's how these people try to, how they try to follow Matt. But now I specifically addressed this. I said, listen, here's how we can prove the supernatural. I showed the cops analogy. Cops, which is stands for coincidence, observed, plagiarized, scientists. These are the natural way you can explain away the scientific agreement between the Quran and Islam. I'm sorry, between the Islam and science. However, cops is not going to work here because the challenge which I presented to him, which does prove the supernatural, is the sheer amount of scientifically correct statements. It's not, if it was one or two, yeah, okay, cops can explain it. It could be a coincidence, it could have been plagiarized, it could have been observed. You can explain it away one or two, maybe three. But once you get to that sheer amount, no way. Cops cannot explain that. Now, here is a debate technique which I used to basically seal the deal here, which I think broke his back in the debate rather than just focusing on science. Now think outside the box and go into another area like the rehabilitation of prisoners.
Yeah, yeah,
Islam
exactly.
has this power which
Huge
rehabilitates
impact. Massive, yeah.
millions of prisoners, which
Exactly, exactly.
atheists or any or these other beliefs cannot compete with Islam. So how can an ignorant man, if we are to assume Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a false prophet, how could he have give people this power in the desert, and he's an illiterate man and he's an ignorant man allegedly, and then be the author of all these scientifically correct statements? So when you basically, this is called diversification. You're not putting all your evidences in one basket. Now, I'm not sure where you were in this debate, Ahmed. I really don't know, but all of this was repeated multiple times. So that means you could have got up, went to the bathroom. You could have probably um, went to, watched some TV and came back, and you still would have got this. Okay. You would have still got all the point because it was repeated multiple times again and again to the point of his failure. So what I also pointed out that Muslims have the highest level of this thing called this feeling of this oneness, which produces a great amount of happiness, which atheists
Unity, yeah.
score absolute last. So the problem here,
Unfortunately, yeah.
where it causes the destruction of atheism is, okay, maybe you could argue that Muhammad had this advanced scientific knowledge and understanding, which maybe was more advanced than other people of his time. But then now, how do you explain what he's doing in prisons? How do you explain this? How do you explain the scientific revolution he started, which was known as the Golden Age of Islam? So this is a technique which I use when you have a science debate. Diversify your arguments into other areas so that cannot be explained through cops. You cannot do that. But now your comment here, you're trying to do, you said, okay, but all your arguments make Islam better than other religions. No, it's talking about the supernatural. Because the question which, Ahmed, I'm trying to get you to understand, which I've repeated again and again, how can a human being, if he is an illiterate man in the desert 1400 years ago, how could he be the author and have the ability to do all of this? All I'm asking is for an explanation at this point. Explain to me, walk me through the process. How is a human being able to achieve all this? So that's where I said, listen, I made it very clear. Cops cannot explain this. The only valid answer is this has got to be something supernatural. Now, supernatural doesn't mean it has to be equal automatically God. As the people in the audience pointed out, look, it could be magic, it could be aliens, it could be other supernatural. And to those, all those, I say, good, alhamdulillah, good. Because at least we are now from point A to B to C. At least we are here now. And then how can we rule out these other possibilities? Is now remember, how do we refute the point about magic? How do we refute that? We go back to the to the golden age of Islam. Because the golden age of Islam, this is where Islam basically provided the foundation for chemistry, mathematics, um, the science which we know today, and the great scientific revolution we found in Europe, it is rooted in this in the science of Islam. So if we were to assume that this was from aliens or this was from magic, then go to your classroom today in your university, and when they talk about the great scientific achievements, say this is all the work of magic. It's all the work of magic. Now go to your professor and raise your hand. You won't do that because that's just not a very good explanation for the facts. So
That's
that
not
is
possible
how
as
we
well.
can rule out magic. And remember what I said in the debate. I said the best explanation for the facts is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the best explanation. Of course, there might be magic, but when you are ready to say that the scientific discovery, the scientific revolution of Europe and all those advancements, raise your hand and say, this is magic. It is magic. I can prove it to you. Nobody is that stupid to do that. Therefore, this cannot be a good explanation. And
Exactly.
that is where the what I believe is a Islamic debate winning argument is that out of all the supernatural explanations, Allah is the best explanation. All the other ones just don't make sense. Though hypothetically possible. You see? So,
Exactly.
anyways, I don't know, Ahmed, if that enlightened you. All this was explained in the debate. I'm not sure where you were. You might have fell asleep. Because I'm just basically at this point I'm repeating myself. So, anyways, it is just to so the technique I want to teach people here is when you have a science debate, diversify, go into other areas which will then knock out all any possibility of a natural explanation. It can happen like that. So, and I hope you, and then many Muslims actually did say, look, Quran inside really has increased my iman. Maybe a lot of Muslims have like weak faith, and they watch these debates and say, Subhanallah, that really increased my iman. Iman means belief, faith. And it has really helped them. So
Yeah.
Ahmed, it's like you're not getting anywhere. How is it other people can understand this stuff, but you cannot understand this? That's the question. uh you mix proving with believing in a horrible. I have no idea what you're talking about because you're just expressing your emotions. These are your emotions you're feeling here. You're not presenting sensible rational arguments. Maybe this is a problem. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever there's some Muslims who are making videos about that the Quran and science narrative is wrong. Have you been exposed to any of these videos by any chance? Can you type a yes or no in the chat? Have you, Hakeem, seen any of these videos?
Uh, Sorry, I wasn't listening. Someone called
Yeah.
me
Oh,
from the
okay.
kitchen.
Oh,
So just
okay.
give me
He
1 minute.
said no. So basically, he said, well, the fact that nobody is agreeing with you, Nadir, you have to admit that. This guy, I don't know what la la land he's living in. He's saying nobody is agreeing with me. Hakeem, you are agreeing with me. People in the question and answer period are agreeing with me. So this is obviously some kind of crazy person. I don't.
Yes.
I can't talk to him anymore.
Sweeping statements, blanket
Yeah.
statements. Nothing more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if people in the question and answer time were looking at the Quran as something supernatural and calling it magic, how is it that you are sitting here telling people or saying that nobody is agreeing with you? That doesn't make any sense. This what you're I'm just going to leave them alone because I can't talk. There's a lot of crazy people out there. There's a lot of nutcases, and you just can't bang your head trying to explain to them things.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think it's
yeah,
about intentions as well. It's
yeah,
about their confirmation biases. We
right.
all have our confirmation biases. I would agree. If someone would ask me, I would say there are some places where I have my confirmation bias as well.
Sure, sure.
So that's the, as you said, like psychology, psychiatry, that sometimes stop us. So probably some people, they are more stubborn than the rest. I do
Yeah.
remember there was a person I know whose friend was dying,
Hmm.
and it's not that they were atheists. They didn't knew what they were. They were just they just lost their faith. They didn't knew what Christianity tells them and
Sure.
everything. They just completely didn't knew what God means. Very unfortunate. But I told that person that, could you go and tell your friend? I was not really very religious, but I still had my you can say good grip on Islam. So I said, go and tell your friend that he's gonna go and meet God, and he doesn't need to worry. He's not just finishing yet. And the person went and told the his friend, and said immediately he could see the reaction on his face. He was so happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I mean, it's not always God. You cannot really define God or prove God through a mathematical equation. Nobody could do it. I mean, many people they were trying to. Einstein tried to do it, but yeah, I mean, we can't. That's for sure.
It's the
But
best
we can tell
explanation of the facts.
exactly,
Right.
exactly, and it makes it give you happiness. It gives you joy. You live
Mm-hmm.
a better life.
Right.
So it's not just one thing. There's just so many other factors. And
Right.
I mean, the proof of your debate in the one that you did it with Matt was he couldn't mention a single contradiction in Quran,
Mm-hmm.
and he couldn't tell a single verse which was scientifically wrong. He couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
In among the audience, there were a couple of things those they pointed out. Let me quickly address it with you,
Sure.
Nadir. One of them was about the verse about Kamran Munira, means moon emits light. Moon.
Yeah.
The verse doesn't say it emits light. The verse says
Ah.
it's yeah. So the verse says it shines. Munira means something that shines.
Which verse
It
is
is a
that?
reflector. The verse was Quran 25:61.
2561.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the I think the Surah 25 and verse number 61.
Let's check that out.
Yeah,
Surah 25.
61. It clearly says there, Kamran Munira. So
Kamran
Munir
Munira.
means
Yeah.
something which shines. That's it. It
Hmm.
doesn't tell us it's the source of light or the reflector.
Right.
So
Correct.
so for example, if you're driving your car on the road and you see a bicycle guy, and you see his reflector, it reflects the light on you. You will say it's Munira. It's shining,
Right.
or the moon. It's shining.
Let,
It's
let me let me share the
no matter
verse
what.
so other
Yeah,
people can
please.
take a look at it real
Yeah,
quick here.
go on, please.
Which is, here we go. There you go. So this is what you are mentioning right here, that blessed is the one who has placed constellations in the sky, as well as a radiant lamp and a luminous moon. So basically, I think your point, which you are making, Hakeem, is that okay. The word kamarun muniran,
Shining. There you go.
shining. Yeah,
That's
people
it.
were people were basically making the claim that this is a source of the light.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this is an example.
this is their
This
own
is a
claim.
clear example of people who now remember what I said in the beginning. I said people would accuse Muslims of reading science into the Quran to claim that it agrees with science. But now we see the inverse of it. People
The
are reading
opposite of it.
science into the Quran to create a contradiction. Okay?
Exactly.
Muniran does not mean that this is a source of the light, but they're
Exactly.
reading it into the text. So they're actually doing exactly what they condemn us of doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So can you believe that? And
Right.
then there was another verse which I don't know the number, unfortunately, but it mentioned about stars as lamps. I have read it in Quran
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
with the tarjuma, I mean
But was
translation.
that
So I
mentioned
know
in the
what it is.
debate?
But
Was it mentioned in the
yeah,
debate
yeah,
or?
yeah. So people were saying lamps, lamps.
Oh, in the
Um,
comments section,
in
or
the
did
in
they
the comment,
actually?
in the comments, in the comments.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay, gotcha. Because I don't remember
No,
that.
no,
But
so,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
no. So,
yeah.
they asked the question in the
Right,
super chat time,
right.
in the questioning time.
Okay.
But I think because at that time what happened was, and I think you did the right thing by started ignoring those people, because it was like a flood of questions. Those are just basically damage control, as you're saying. So probably it was that.
They were trying
So
to pull off a last minute win because when
yeah,
they saw Matt not be able to find scientific contradictions, they're like, "Oh my God, let me help him out. Let me help him out." Yeah.
and that's another similar verse. So
Hmm.
lamps, yes, stars are lamps for us, right? I mean,
Hmm.
they are the one that's running the fuel. Yes, the
Hmm.
fuel is not the chemical energy; it's the
Right.
nuclear energy. It happens because when the lighter atoms fuse together, and become a heavier one, like hydrogen into helium up
Hmm.
to the iron.
Hmm.
It just keep fusing and it just keep producing fuel, and that's how stars are radiating. Yes, the fuel is not your typical desi ghee or
Hmm.
oil,
Right.
but in nutshell, it's a fuel, right?
Right.
And it is giving light. Subhanallah,
Right.
right? Isn't
Right.
it? So I mean, what they normally do is they was they are normally pointing out things like, oh, this is the lamp, this is not mentioning reflectors, saying it's the
Hmm.
source of light, just because they wanted to, because they couldn't really find any contradiction. So what they normally
Right.
do is they just pick up anything which they could interpret in a different way. Normally, if you read that verse, you will not see any contradiction.
Right.
But if you read through their own interpretation, some people may get fooled and they say,
Right.
oh, what? And that's what they were doing. So at the end of the debate, they were probably trying to do damage control. I think I agree with you on that.
Yeah, they were trying
And
to pull off a win, because
that's
they
right.
didn't. They were not. They were clearly not very happy with the outcome,
Yeah.
and you could see the frustration in them in the end. And so overall, I think just to kind of wrap things up here, I felt
Yeah.
like Alhamdulillah, it was very good. And
It was
now,
good. It was good.
another point which I also want to make out, which I present. I don't know if I mentioned this in debate, but oh yeah, I did point out that from the atheist perspective now, they're actually running away from the science debates. Okay. And so, like I pointed out, people like Aaron Ra and others, and other than them, they are no longer wanting to come forward to debate on this issue of Quran and science. Now, of course, they'll try to
Right.
debate the ignorant people like Perfect Dawa and people like that. And they, in fact, he just did. But if you look at, they have watched the last 4 or 5 debates on Quran and science,
Right.
and they're seeing debate victory after debate victory, and they're seeing, look, there is validity to this. And so because of that, they're seeing it as now as being unwinnable for them, and
Makes
now
sense.
one
Yeah.
by one they're backing out. And I think that in itself also is a great evidence for Islam. And Islam is now, I'm telling you, we're dominating modern day debate because we are the one who are coming forward to debate the really difficult topics like science. That's a
Yeah.
tough topic to debate. It looks
Very tough
easy,
topic. Exactly.
because
Yeah.
the Quran made it
Obviously do.
easy. But Christians aren't going to debate that. Well, Hindu log, they're not going to come debate that. Other religions,
Uh,
nobody is going to
Hindus.
do what we are doing. And
But
whatever you want to talk about, you want to talk about the issue of women beating, whether you want to talk about the issue of slavery, whether you want to talk about whatever topic, we're not going to run away. Why? Quran is perfect. The other religions are the one running away. And so this is that type of domination, which
yeah.
which we are now witnessing taking place. And Islamic domination is taking place on modern day debate. We're the only religion which is coming for and debating these really tough
Tough.
topics. So,
Exactly.
anyways, perhaps
I'm
we
just
could
gonna,
just, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, let me just quickly make one last comment. You mentioned about Hindus. Hindus are my friends.
Yeah.
I love them. Our ancestors were Hindus. I'm from originally from India, now Pakistan. But um, so the one thing that I admire about them, that they know that there are almost zero scientific accurate verses in Vedas and other things. If you remember, if you know that how earthquakes come, or the where Earth stands.
Uh-huh.
There's I don't know, there's a the crocodile. No, so there's a
Mhm.
tortoise and then a snake, and there are like elephants or maybe bulls, and on their horns, Earth is basically stationary. But
Mhm.
whenever a snake moves, we get earthquake. So now the thing is, we can immediately tell that that's not how things are, and they know that's not how things
Right.
are. But the real thing, the real good thing that I like about them, that I sometimes don't like about Abrahamic faiths like Muslims and Christians and Jews, that they damn care. They know that these things are there. These are old things.
Right.
They are happy with their life. They do their puja because for spiritual, you can say like satisfaction, or for the peace of heart. What we do normally, Nadir, which I found, I mean, quite upsetting, that many Muslims, they started picking up scientific verses in Quran, and they, in their own interpretation, they are it's wrong because earlier they says they believe on Islam because of science. Now what's happening is because of there's so many misinformation and misinterpretations, so they are getting confused and they are becoming atheists.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
that is something which you will find very rarely happening in Hindus, because
Mm-hmm.
Hindus knew this is not a scientific book. Muslims, we in general, we try to fit in everything. And then when we found that there's a misinformation or misinterpretation, so like for example, myself, I personally I believe that we should take these verses, most of these verses, as metaphors. But now
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to you and you're doing such a good job. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very informative, and obviously it inspires me as well, and if it inspires other people, then why not? But that is something I think we should, as a Muslim, we should understand that there might be some time where it will be very difficult for for scientific minded people like you or someone else who will be able to interpret correctly about these verses.
Mm-hmm.
Then don't lose your faith,
Right.
because
Right.
yeah, so stick to it, keep working hard. It will be a continuous struggle between haq and batil
Mm-hmm.
within your heart. I'm having it all the time. So
Right.
if you are having doubts, don't worry. That's perfectly normal.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot really interpret something perfectly as modern science does, don't take it on your faith, don't take it on your heart. That's
Right.
not the
Right.
purpose of Islam. But once again, brother, you did an amazing job there debating with Matt was not up to your part, not even near. So
Mm-hmm.
well done. That's all
Yeah.
I wanted to say.
All right. Jazakallah khair. Hopefully, we'll have some more debates like this, you know.
Yeah,
But the
we should.
question now, you know, just to kind of sum up is, do we need more debates like this? Can we now go to the atheist community based with a document with the debates we have? There's been like four or five, and say, hey, look, we've proved our case here. Your atheists no longer want to debate this. So now just accept that the Quran is supernatural. You know, so that, and that was really, you know, one of the reasons why actually I got into the whole debate things and you know, apologetics. One of the reasons why is because as I was doing dawah to people in the streets, I needed some kind of tools, some kind of video I could show them. Oh, you don't accept the
Right.
Quran is supernatural. You have all these questions here. Look at this debate. This is so for dawah purposes is really the reason why how I got into this, and I got stuck into this for the next couple of some years.
Right.
And and so I think we, and that's where I'm saying we've reached a point where we have basically led this debate to victory. The atheists have been knocked out and they're not getting up for the count. And now we can now make that claim now, and we can show them the documented evidence of that, and show Aaron Ra, your apologists are not coming forward. People like a bitter truth, you know, the Pagalog, people like that. You know, I mean, he's a nice guy, but he's a little bit, you
He's a
know,
nice guy. Yeah.
he's a nice guy, but let's face it, he had some real issues in that last debate where he cannot see his the error of his ways. You know, people like that now
Yeah.
are coming forward to fill the void, which is good because that'll give us more opportunity to do more dawah. I do have a debate
Okay.
with Bitter Truth, I think later on.
You
I
will.
think
Okay. Cool.
I think in
Well,
a week
that's
or
good.
two.
I,
Yeah,
I like you to have debate with open-minded people. Peter
yeah,
Truth might not be very experienced, but I
right.
can tell that he is open for debates,
Hmm.
and that will bring uh, new things, open new frontiers.
Right, right.
So I would encourage you definitely go with Bitter Truth, even though he's not very experienced. But
Anybody
I'm
really?
sure he will. Yeah,
Yeah,
anybody really. Yeah,
because
exactly.
you know the thing is, let's say we do one thing on Ghalib's channel. Okay, well
Yeah.
now you're giving dawah to 2, 3,000, 4,000 people. You know, with all the views and things like that. Wow, that you're doing that from the comfort of your own home,
Yeah, yeah,
and so
exactly, exactly.
so that's very
By the way,
nice.
I'm very regular at Ghalib's channel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I go almost every week, uh, once a
Well,
week,
I think we need more people
not
like
twice,
you.
but once.
Yeah, because you
Thanks.
know, because you show Muslims are not all pagal, unobjective people. You know, we can actually talk with people of the opposing side in a nice way and do, you know, good commentaries and valuable commentary even to them. That's good.
Yeah,
You know, so okay.
yeah. I'm trying. I'm not a debater, but
Yeah.
I just
No, your
I
commentary.
like to give
You
I like to
you're
give him some company. I like to give
yeah,
I like to be there for them
yeah,
just in
yeah.
case if they
Very
need
good.
me, if there's any question or something like that.
All right. Thank you everybody for coming. Even the people from Matt's side, you know.
Yeah,
So I'm going to
welcome.
go ahead and close up the live stream, and I'll go ahead and publish it. So nice meeting everybody. I'm going to let everybody go. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.